obviously just welcome you once more, Andy from Yomdel, as you will be well known. Welcome to everybody joining us today on the many different platforms. If you have any questions, please pop them into the comments, and via magic they will find it onto my little phone, and I will ask Andy as we go through. Andy's going to give us some information now. We've got a really exciting tie-up at the end and a deal we've got for our members. Oh yes, we're going to tease that out. I think it's fair to say you are well known, obviously, for owning chat in the UK in the estate agency industry, but it's fair to say, obviously, Yomdel is far more than that as well, and you're going to allude to some of those now.
Yeah, and thank you, Simon. And yeah, it's Yomdel is best known for managed live chat. We were the first, not just in the property sector, but the first company in the country really to offer these kinds of 24/7 human support online. You know, there wasn't really a channel that was widely available. Banks and utilities were starting to use it when we began, but there was no one catering to the smaller and the independent businesses, shall we say.
Yeah.
Since then, property estate agents in the UK in particular has been our real strong point. We've really focused all of our efforts. We started off in estate agency. We're now working in other sectors too, related sectors like financial services, so mortgages, but also removals and self-storage and other related industries to property. But estate agency is our biggest sector. And it's the one that we're best known for. We're working with probably 3,800 offices, if we count it that way, branches, if we count it that way. It's very hard to measure, really. And at the end of the day, you know, doing chat well is about delivering an exceptional customer experience. And that's what Yomdel is more broadly about. It's about helping businesses identify how they can be better, because we then also have our mystery shopping, experiential customer research services, market research services, and then that then feeds through into complementing what they may be doing in their marketing activities. So if the traffic is coming in, it could be on the website, it could be in social channels, it could be via emails that are being sent, any of the digital channels that are going out there. We can position live chat so that people have an option to one click immediately engage with a human operator who's well trained, who understands how to represent the brand and can do it very, very well. On websites, we're also then looking at the more casual visitor. I'll kind of come on to some dynamics that we've been seeing in recent weeks and how things have changed actually quite a lot in a second. But essentially, we're looking at customer journeys. Everyone is on a journey. You know, the journey from beginning to think that they're going to move to actually moving is one part of that journey. But then before that, there's all the research and the digging around and the trawling across the portals and the estate agency websites. And these people are there to be seduced, I suppose, is a really good way of putting it. You know, they have a need. They may be quite early in their need, of course, because they're not ready to commit necessarily to give their name and their email address and their phone number. But they often have questions, and if you can help them,
they don't want the hard sell. They love the anonymity at that stage, don't they? In terms of being, I mean, I will always deviate to a chat if I possibly can do, and you know, I'm probably one of that rather annoying demographic for estate agents who seemingly refuse to pick up the phone until I'm absolutely ready to do it, and actually then I'm usually phoning in. The one thing about that is, though, that is it really is a spectrum of capability, because a great chat experience is brilliant. I mean, you can multitask, you can do other things, you can get it at the right time. However, you'll be more than aware of the cheap options out there, won't there? That you know, just think that by chucking a chat bot up there or whatever else, it's somehow doing the job. There's nothing worse than a poorly responsive, or, you know, even worse, you know, no response when you go into those chats. How prevalent are those services out there? They certainly seem to be a lot of them around.
Yeah, it's for me to talk openly about it is obviously tricky, because these are businesses that position themselves against Yomdel, and as far as I'm concerned, the best thing and the most important thing to consider with a live chat service is what the results are at the end. It's not about the cost. If you go cheap and, well, you think cheerful, it rarely is. It's cheap and dangerous, actually. It's more likely to do damage to your brand and to leave your customers unsatisfied at best and angry at worst. And you only have one opportunity to make a good first impression. And so if your customers are online, they deserve, and you want to find people who are going to effectively generate a significant chunk of revenue for you. Let's say, you know, they're a house owner and wants to sell, they're a vendor. They should be getting a Rolls-Royce service. They should be getting the best possible experience from the get-go, because if you don't wow them at the beginning, you're facing an uphill battle to capture them the further down you go.
Yeah.
So if you're choosing a live chat provider, and I'm not going to name any names or anything like that, just dig into what is it that they actually do. Go and also test their service on websites where they are active, if they will even tell you. A lot of them won't tell you where they're working for very good reason, because they
They're
know
just embarrassed by the service, are they? They know themselves that once you've done a bit of due diligence, you're not going to want that service for your own business.
Absolutely right. And if anyone tries to sell you live chat purely on price, turn away, because this is not about getting something cheap. This is about getting.
I think that's the key thing, that people think about something like, you know, chat, and they think, oh, well, it's all the same. It's that little box that sits down there in the corner. And I know from our conversations how frustrated you get about this, and how, let's be honest, how frustrated I used to get at previous companies when, you know, people would say, oh, we do exactly the same as Repeat, but it's at a quarter of the cost. And I know that's what happens with a number of our tier one partners and friends in the industry. It's very hard to kind of negate that without just looking like you're getting a bit prissy and defensive, isn't it?
Absolutely right. And I try to focus people's attention on success. You know, what are the success criteria? What do you want your live chat service to do? Well, here's some guidance as to what we think we can do. Are these the kind of things that you want? Do you want more quality vendors that are going to convert at a higher rate than you get from your web forms or your instant online valuation tool or whatever else it is that you're using? You know, do you want high quality engagement, or do you just want someone to be there and say, hello, what's your name, what's your number, and I'll get someone to call you if you're lucky, you know? Where there's no real effort at engagement and no real training of the operators concerned. For Yomdel, I mean, we don't focus in on just shoveling the chat through as fast as we can. And an average successful lead outcome will take 12 to 14 minutes. It's a really long and deep engagement with fast answers from our guys, and a very structured approach looking at multiple revenue opportunities for our clients. So a buyer isn't just a buyer. They're buyers, obviously. We help them with their viewings and whatever else they want to do. But then there's the, you know, are they a vendor? Have they arranged their finance? Look at all the little boxes that we can tick, which will start to run flags up the pole to say there's a real opportunity here. There's another real opportunity here, whether it's active or passive revenue opportunities. But beyond that, also delivering a really good experience. So, you know, I'm obviously an advocate for the channel, because the adoption of it has grown massively over the years, and you know, I wouldn't have started a business and still have a successful business if that hadn't happened out there. It has. But it's also important to say, for those that are listening, that just because you don't like to use live chat yourself, which may be the case, doesn't mean to say there are a lot of people out there that think the same. There's a lot of people out there who think very, very differently. You're always going to get different people want to do different things in different ways. And the key to success is sort of a multi-pronged approach to get to multiply and maximize conversion of your website and your other digital assets, is to try to offer as many of the channels as you possibly can, so that for your customers, when they're coming in, what they
Interesting. Okay, and I believe you're going to just give us a bit of a sort of overview of some of the options there you've got.
in terms of, do you want me to give a bit of the market overview and what we're seeing first?
Yeah, that'd be interesting. Yeah,
and then we can come on to the details of what Yomdel offers subsequently. So I'll share my screen. Here's one that I prepared earlier. In fact, I didn't. Someone else did. But
there's the lovely pink. That's great.
So making sense of the noise. Okay, so many people will know that in recent weeks we've been tracking behavior out there in the estate agency website world through the live chat engagements that we've been handling. And the Yomdel Property Sentiment Tracker has been now released every Tuesday for 5 weeks. So this is this week's. It was in Property Industry Eye this morning. And what we're looking at here is how customers have been behaving during the lockdown period versus how they were behaving in the 62 weeks before lockdown was imposed, back to the 1st of January 2019. So just going back, this green line is the average number of leads that we've been generating from chats with on estate agency websites. Different colours mean different things. The red is the vendor, the blue is the buyer, the purple is the landlord, and the yellow are tenants. So you can see the market kind of zigzagging a little bit, Brexit uncertainty, various other things. It's been a difficult few years to know what's going on out there. Yeah. Then we get to the real hardcore Brexit shenanigans at the back end of last year, leading into the election in early December. And of course, seasonal downturn, which you'd also see at that time. The recovery immediately after that, the so-called Boris bounce, then it's starting to tail off. The joys didn't seem to last very long. And then the uncertainty over what was happening with coronavirus started to emerge. The line here shows when lockdown was imposed, but it was already falling steeply because the week before, if you recall, it seems like an awfully long time ago now, but the week before, you had massive uncertainty about, will we, won't we, can we, should we, all of these types of things. And the situation was getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And so already the numbers of engagements and visitors on websites were dropping off. But what happened quite quickly after the lockdown occurred, we hit the all-time low. So vendors, for example, went down to something like 66% below the number of inquiries that were coming in as the average over the previous 62 weeks. And it's important to stress that this is real finger on the pulse stuff. So this is not hardcore transactions, and we know that transaction volumes fell off. And you look at the various data suppliers out there and the transaction volumes. It paints a very gloomy picture. But here we're looking at sentiment and looking at what people are thinking and then what people are doing. So demand remained, and very quickly after the drop-off, we started to see steep increases. We saw a slight leveling off in the last week here, so you can see these lines flattening. But demand, especially from tenants, has just gone off the scale. We're at the highest point, certainly since, well, I haven't got the data for 2018 in front of me, but we're at the highest point since the beginning of 2019 by a long, long way.
That almost 200%? It's almost double.
It's 100%, yes, 100% above the average that we'd seen in the previous 62 weeks before lockdown, pretty much. It's a doubling of demand. Now, you can also say it's kind of a concertinaing of demand. So it's a reflection of constipation in the market, I suppose, where these blockages are occurring and people have a need. Their lease is coming to an end. They've got questions over affordability. Their relationships have broken down. There's all kinds of different things out there, meaning that people have had to move. Or need to move. So that demand has been pushing up against it. And many of our clients actually have, even going back beginning of last week in London, we were seeing one of our major clients actually starting to bring back their letting staff to deal with the demand that they were faced with at the same time as they were doing essential moves as well for key workers and various other things. But buyer demand is also very buoyant. People, after coming through all this period of uncertainty, they got through all the difficulties, got into the beginning of the year, I think spring's coming, we're going to get ready, we'll start dressing the house for sale, and then we're going to go and we're going to do it, and guess what happened? So that buyer demand is still very much there. So
just if you don't mind me jumping in with just a couple here. I mean, obviously it does, the Boris bounce does start to trail off fairly quickly, but did you expect that? How much longer could you extrapolate from that would have continued? Would that have been through to the middle of the year and then?
Yeah. I mean, as you know, and as anyone on this webinar will know, that the property market, especially in the sales market, is very, very seasonal. The vendors disappear before the end of the year and they come back in January, and there's a new year, new start, and let's get our plans on the go. So we would always expect there to be an early peak in January, by mid-January. Last year was later, actually, because again, I think Brexit upset some things there. But this year we saw the combination of, well, thank God that's all out the way kind of thing, whether it was or whether it wasn't.
Little did they know what was coming, yeah.
Yeah, that's what they wanted to believe anyway. And we would ordinarily see that carrying on through into May, strong levels, and then a slight dip in the summer, picking up again a little bit. I mean, the pattern you can see here is pretty much what you would see. But you know,
Is it fair to say, Andy, do you think that, obviously it's a sentiment tool, and is it like what's it, the canary in the cage kind of thing? This is the first intimation that something's either right or wrong, isn't it? Is the level of inquiries?
yeah, I think so, and but also it's an indication that whatever's happening out there in the world, there are some real needs that continue to build. So people really need to move. And
Yeah.
actually, I'm going to the next graph shows this really well. So this is actually a new graph. It's only got 3 lines, but it shows some really interesting stuff. This has been a piece of work that Simon Taylor, our marketing director, has been doing. It's been a fantastic piece of work. And essentially, this is looking at around about 28 million website visits on estate agency websites going back to the beginning of January last year. So January the 6th, I think, 2019. And this red line, again, we set an average of what that would be throughout the year pre-lockdown, including the dips. And that placed that average there. So you can see that the red line tracks along quite merrily. We get the seasonal election, and then this massive drop as lockdown hit. And we saw that website visit counts dropped on our client websites, dropped by between sort of 35 to 50%. Massive. In fact, this is about 50%. This bottoms out at here.
And do you think that, because one of the things that I think were one of the earlier podcasts that David and I did there, I was presuming that it would very quickly move towards kind of Boxing Day style territory. Everyone's at home, you'd expect traffic to rocket as property porn became the pastime that people do. And when we checked his Rightmove stats on his own webpage for Normie & Co, actually it just reflected that massive dive in activity. Do you think it literally was a case that people were stuck in the headlamps there and they weren't ready to really start researching? Or because obviously it starts to pick up quite markedly after that.
Our narrative is a bit different, actually, very different. So we saw traffic dip by half, let's say, a third to half, really significant. And there are a number of reasons why that happened. One is reining in of costs. So a lot of agents were stopping their digital marketing activities, their pay-per-click and all that kind of stuff. But what it really took out of the picture were the tire kickers. Yeah. So those passive browsers interested, and as you say, the property porn, they seem to have exited the space entirely. And instead, what you were left with, and this is where we come on to the other 2 lines on this graph, which are fascinating in my view. What you're left with are the people who actually have a real need. They really need to do something, or they were actively planning, and their plans have been upset, and they're trying to work out how they can do it, if they can do it, when they can do it. Yeah. So the other 2 lines, the blue line, are the number of weekly live chats that we staff, and we've kind of evened these things out. So we just have it's sort of a trend. So essentially, you can see that the purple line are the number of web chat leads that we're generating. The blue line is the number of live chats that we're having, and the red line is the number of website visitors. So they all kind of track along quite merrily, quite consistently all the way through the year, even when they follow each other down into the election dip. And the Boris bounce is all kind of tracking each other reasonably well until we get to this massive open jaw that just developed on the second week of lockdown. And what we saw was that the numbers of people engaging in live chat essentially doubled or even tripled in some cases as a proportion of the total number of visitors. And those people were really motivated to do stuff. And maybe they're the ones that couldn't get through on the phone. They weren't getting an answer to their emails. Or maybe they just think, I'm at home, I'm online, they've got live chat, I'm going to use it, let's see what we can get. And the end result is, and really this is fascinating from my perspective, the end result is that the chat volume increased massively, so did the lead volume. So even though agent websites were seeing a massive decrease in visits, the number of leads they're generating is more.
Yeah.
It's a net gain, and you can see it. You can see it in this one here. So it's a logarithmic scale that we've done. This top one is our chat to lead conversion rate, which is typically around about 30 to 40%, depending on the client. So this is tracking along at about sort of 33%, I think, this line here throughout going back to the beginning of January last year. But then you see the result here, which are the the percentage of leads and the percentage of chats has just gone, it's just stepped up. So, one of our national brands we work with, which has a very good sized data, about 100,000 unique users a month on their website, their live chat engagement rate with Yomdel rose from about 1.4 to just below 6%.
Yeah, it's
huge.
I mean, it's direct. Those two ones at the bottom are just directly tracking each other, aren't they?
Yeah. Well, because the conversion rate remains constant.
Yeah.
So as the chat volume goes up, the lead volume goes up. So a lot of these agents that we work with have been getting more from less. And one of the things that we know over the years that we've been doing Yomdel is that once people make a shift in behavior, and we've all done it. This is a very good example of how just in the last few years we've all made this massive shift in our behavior that now the whole population is rooted to these things that they're walking around. That wasn't happening 10 years ago. It wasn't even happening 5 years ago to the degree it does now. And they're not going to go back. They're going to, if they found they can get things done in a particular way, they're going to carry on trying to do it that way. And my view is that going forward, channels such as live chat and offering other forms of communication via your digital assets is going to be the fastest and most reliable way to be able to get to the people that you need to get to, because they're not necessarily going to be picking up the phone.
Yeah. How are people to use this other than just nice to cut through a lot of the national doom and gloom? Are you able to give people clues as to what they can make of this information?
Well, of course, people will say that I'm completely biased, and I am, because I believe in what we say. I think the results that we achieve also back that up. That for forward-thinking businesses, looking at how they can optimize their opportunities and start to identify them and deliver on those opportunities in a very difficult world going forward, and it is going to be challenging for a long time now, I believe. Focusing in on your digital assets as a way of being available and open to your customers as much as you possibly can be. And I'm talking 24/7 here, because 50% of all the chats that we manage take place outside of hours. If you're thinking of,
what percentage was that?
About 50% on average, typically just over. It's too late now because the lockdown has been lifted to a degree and offices can be reopened. But if you'd been thinking through the last 7 weeks, this is a great time to spend thousands of pounds doing up the office and giving it a lick of paint and getting some new furniture in and refreshing the whole thing, my honest opinion would be, in times of tight cash flow and unreliable cash flow projections looking forward, that if you're going to be investing in something, invest in something that you can measure a direct return from. And this would be one of the ways that you can do that.
It's often over-egged, isn't it? The old ROI, but realistically, if you can't measure it, then you're always going to be playing the guessing game. And the wonderful thing of Yomdel is it's just directly measurable, as you said.
Yeah, there's lots and lots and lots of data, and I'm happy to explore and explain this to people individually rather than bore everyone today. But we on average will see, for those that know your numbers and know your marketing and know your conversion rates and then know how things track through, we know that a website that has good quality live chat on it will deliver about a 50% increase in conversion rates. So that means that for every 2 leads, you're getting 3.
That's outstanding, isn't it?
And more than that, our clients tell us, and we have lots of evidence of this too, that the leads that come through live chat come through Yomdel. So a good quality vendor that's coming through will also convert to a listing at a higher level to a more speculative form inquiry, shall we say, or email inquiry.
Yeah. Well, look, it must be. I mean, as you said, you're not the cheapest out there, and I have many of our clients who, are mutual clients of yours, and the fact they stuck with you for years and then shows that you keep delivering. Because, simply put, there's no way they stay with premium services if they don't, do they?
Well, that's right. I mean, so we're not expensive as such in terms of what possibly can come back. I mean, our prices start from a very very modest level. There's 150 quid or something a month ish. and for that you get 24/7. It comes down to pennies per hour, actually. I'm not doing a hard sort of sales spill here, but perception of expensive and perception of value, the two things need to reconcile each other. They need to be balanced somehow. And I was,
you can't have agents out there preaching to the public about why they should ignore the 0.5% crew and the online agents and preaching the value game, and then ignore it in their own lives, can they?
Yeah, well, we all know that higher fees come from offering exceptional service and evidencing value through to the vendors. Those that appreciate value, of course, and having a rounded customer service proposition where you imagine the scenario: you go and visit in the days when you could, or hopefully can, a vendor to do a valuation, and you give them a nicely printed transcript of a buyer coming in via live chat in the middle of the night. Stand back and let them read that and say, here's an example how we will be actively marketing your property 24 hours a day. This chat came in at 3 o'clock in the morning.
And is there any way of using chat other than the perceived, normal way, standard way of doing it, as obviously just one of the main points of communication on the main web page? Is there anyone doing anything different or strange, or is that still the vast majority of where chat is used?
Well, there's obviously the lead generation has a direct ROI attached to it, but there's a whole load of stuff around business efficiency as well. I mean, we've worked with as an example, we've worked with the property ombudsman now for 3 years or so, more than 3 years, I think. Okay. And we handle a third of all inquiries that are submitted to the property ombudsman at the initial point of engagement. And so for businesses that have high volumes of inquiries coming in, we can offer a very cost-effective solution. Because a lot of the inquiries are very low level, they're very repetitive. They don't need to have a really premium resource dealing with them if there's a way that you can very quickly offer first contact resolution. But beyond that, the other things that it's important to say is you don't view the live chat in isolation. It needs to work in conjunction with the other things that you're doing. So it needs to work alongside your marketing efforts, because we're all about converting the opportunities. Ideally, it needs to integrate into your systems, into your CRM. So we have data feeds and all the rest of it, and into your Google Analytics. Make sure you understand the full picture of everything that you're doing. And it's not just lead generation; it's about business efficiency. It's customer experience, lead generation, and business efficiency. You can get cost saves and revenue benefit.
One of the questions has just come in, actually. What CRM systems do you integrate with? Any? Are there plans to integrate? I mean, they're all starting to open up, aren't they, in terms of being closed systems? What relationships do you have out there at the moment?
We're one of the I'm not sure what Repit's calling, but the primary or premier partners for Repit for the new Foundations platform. So we've already created our first so-called app that is sitting in that place, which means that Repit's actually been, and they would admit that you know this better than anyone, has always been a challenge to integrate into Repit and get the data in there. So that's coming. That also gives us the ability to create any other integrations into Repit that we want over time as the platform evolves. Because for a lot of our clients, we're also doing things, the admin tasks. We're working in the diaries, we're booking appointments, we're booking viewings, we're booking valuations, leaving the agents to actually focus on the things they do best, which is being an estate agent as opposed to dealing with the admin.
So can we touch on that element there? I was going to ask you how much people feel comfortable with you doing, and indeed up to what point do you go? Obviously, you're acting as essentially, the white labeled, customer service element of that agency. What do you? Is it up to the client to decide? Do you, or do you always say, look, we do this part of the process, and how far does that go?
Before I answer that, let me just finish the answer to the question of integrations with CRMs. There are other CRMs we can integrate in with. We have an open API, so if we have access to the API, then we can do it. So the short answer there is ask us, and if we can, then we will, and increasingly we can. In terms of the variety of tasks that we're able to do, it's really down to two things. One, the business, and what is the business looking for? What's the agent looking for?
Yeah.
And secondly, us trying to help educate or advise I don't really like the word client, to tell you the truth, because actually most of our clients are either partners or friends or both. We benefit an awful lot from referrals from people who work with us, which is fantastic. It's been one of the main sources of business over the years. So it's about understanding businesses, understanding each other's business. And what I like to say is, as you get closer, bring in Yomdel, open your heart to us, because if we can help make you successful, then Yomdel itself will be successful as well. And it's about sitting around a table. It's about opening up the bonnet, rooting around in the engine, and seeing how we can fine tune things, take away some of the pain, save some of the cost, increase the return in other areas. Obviously, the live chat is one element. We do other things. We do some voice, we do some email, we have SMS solutions. There's an integrated approach to this. And then there's also the mystery shopping, going out and mystery shopping doing a valuation mystery shop of your competitors, for example.
Excellent.
Why are they pipping you at the post too often? Well, let's find out for you. We can do that. So there's a whole range of different things. So what typically happens is, as people get closer to us, when they've got something that they're thinking of doing or they're wondering about solutions, they will come to us and they will ask us, is it something, Yomdel, that you can do? Or is it something that Yomdel, you can help advise us on how we may be able to do it? And as part of that, of course, as with Kerfuffle, we're part of the ICG, the Innovation Collaboration Group, and we're working with some of the best companies in the business, in terms of helping people find the best solutions to make their businesses work as smoothly as they possibly can.
And we were talking, as so often when integration is mentioned, with the CRM companies there, but you mentioned, the ICG group there, and then one of the companies that I know that you're working with at the moment is Akaboom, and you have an integration with them, don't you, which is quite innovative. Whereby I believe, is that right? You actually, with their presentations, when the vendor or whoever is looking at the presentations, you have the ability to actually embed essentially a Yomdel chat in there as well. So at any time they can reach out to the agents or what they perceive as the agents to engage in a more meaningful way.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is one of the things that a lot of people maybe don't realize, is that live chat doesn't just need to be on a website. It can be pretty much anywhere where there's the ability to place a link or a button or a call to action of some description in the digital space. So Akaboom is one area. So let's say that both the pre and the post val presentations that are sent via Akaboom. Pre-val, people might be asked, well, if you've got any questions about your upcoming appointment, then let us know, and live chat is embedded in there. Post-val, again, if you've got any questions, or if you'd like to make an offer, if you'd like to accept the valuation, etc., then let us know. We're here to help you. But then we can do also similar things when it comes to email marketing, to your social media. Chat can be placed in all these things, and it is only just one click, and 12 seconds later you're speaking to a human, or chatting with a human being. It's very, very powerful. And the more that you also, because website, you're fishing in a big pond and there's a load of tiddlers in there, and as well as the bigger fish. But where you use what we call direct chat links, which is the kind of thing for Akaboom, or in emails or in social media posts, you can make them very, very explicit. So therefore we will then know that when someone clicks on a very particular message, they're showing their hand as to what kind of person they are. We know if they're a vendor, we know if they're a landlord, or whatever else you want to find. And that then stacks the cards in your favor in terms of getting that higher quality result, finding those higher value opportunities.
Excellent. That's really impressive.
Oh yeah. have I forced you into submission here?
No, look, I'm sold.
I've never seen you so quiet.
over the years, it's an impressive, it's a really impressive rounded service, and actually when you start to realise the different complementary product lines in terms of of what you have to offer, that then just really points towards it. It's lovely to have eggs in one basket if it's the right basket. And it strikes me that actually Yomdel is one of those companies at the moment.
We can help people. We're here to help. I mean, that's what the bottom line is. That's what we're all about. It's not about making a quick buck. We want long-term relationships with people. We want to be a valued partner, because as I said earlier, our success is tied to everyone else's success.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And I can vouch for that. We've had a number of clients who obviously have been introduced to yourself, and we've worked with, and they talk very happily about it afterwards. So that's great to see. Great. Is there anything else in the presentation?
No, I think it's over to you for the next bit. I can change the slide if you like.
Yeah, well, lovely. Obviously, we asked you
Yeah,
to obviously come to us and see what you could work with our Kerfuffle members, and you've been really, really forthcoming, and I've delivered, I think, in terms of that in spades. And so I don't misquote it, Andy, do you want to just talk through? I mean, I think the key elements as far as when we discussed this are this, that you've been really, really generous in saying that you will review all Kerfuffle members that come on board, essentially as a collective with a K there, because it's important we keep destroying the English language to get the Kerfuffle out there, so that essentially all of their chats, accumulate together to warrant getting a bigger discount with yourself rather, and that element, of course, is so key, because agents are always paranoid there's a better deal out there to be done, isn't. And what we've done, obviously, is team up with yourself to make sure that they're getting the very best deal. So do you want to just detail obviously
sure.
the elements of that?
Yeah. So what's on the screen now is the standard Kerfuffle deal, which is an amazing deal actually, and we're going to sweeten that a little bit further in a second. But essentially, for the smaller businesses in particular, it's very hard to get the benefit of scale. It's often smaller businesses will end up paying more than the big corporates. That's just the way it is, because they can't offer those volume discounts. So by taking a kind of a collective with a K approach to Kerfuffle members, we will treat every single agent individually. Of course, you get the same high quality Yomdel service that you would get if you come directly. These prices are the best prices that you're going to get anywhere for Yomdel going forward. There's nowhere that you can get a better rate than this. So essentially, we've got a sliding scale, and there will be transparency between ourselves and Kerfuffle to administer this and make sure that it's fair and that everyone is benefiting as and when they should. But we're going to be looking at basic chat volumes, and as chat volumes build, then the price will come down collectively. So we'd monitor that on a monthly basis, and it might mean that over time your Yomdel bill actually gets smaller while your volume increases.
That's wonderful, isn't it, Andy? I mean, the whole point we were talking about this as well is essentially, if people are enjoying the Yomdel service, as we know many are at the moment, they will feel absolutely, obliged, and indeed feel like they're doing somebody a favour by telling their peers in the industry about the Yomdel service. But not only will they be thanked by their colleagues for doing so, the actual price for them has the potential to come down. And I think that's a really nice, as I said, really a nice community angle that we're trying to encourage over here at Kerfuffle.
Absolutely, and then on top of that, there's the half price setup as well, and the setup is
clearly agents aren't cash flow isn't the greatest at the moment, as well as it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and then the next bit the next slide will help that some more, we hope. But the half price setup is important because, as I said, Yomdel, in order to deliver the quality service that Yomdel does, we spend a lot of time learning your business. We have to get under the skin of it. We need to have the answers. I mean, we know all the questions that people are going to ask, and it's a question I'm asked quite often. What kind of questions do they ask? Well, they're generally fairly high level questions. They're not asking necessarily, or very rarely, property specific questions. They're not saying, is there a nice outside tap? Does the greenhouse still have a broken pane at the bottom of the garden from when I viewed it? Like, they're not asking that kind of detail. They're asking, can I view this property? I've seen a board, but I can't find it online. I'm thinking of selling. There's a whole range of different things, but it's high level questions. But in all the millions and millions of chats that we've managed on behalf of estate agents now over the last 6 years, we know pretty much every question that people are going to ask. So we build the knowledge banks around that. So we preempt the questions that are going to come in. We make sure we've got the unique elements of your brand reflected in there as well. We make sure that if you've got a specific tone of voice, for example, that we reflect that as well. It's all white label and branded, so it's the full service, and then that knowledge bank that we build is a living document that will evolve over time. Some of our clients will see that change every month, one way or another. If you're running special deals, promotions, various other things, then of course we add those bits in as and when is required, and we have a great operations team that will help with all of that stuff, and in fact do all the heavy lifting for you as well. So it's not a daunting thing at all.
Yeah, how long does it take normally? I mean, obviously, I know you're very busy at the moment, but how long does it take ordinarily to onboard an agent?
Well, with the agent being responsive to us and coming back to the guys when they're asking them questions, normally just we can do an estate agency in a day or two, very quickly, because we know what's needed. We just need to tweak it to make sure it reflects the brand effectively. It can slow down a bit if you're a bit slow responding to our questions or signing off on the things that we send you. As I say, we do all the heavy lifting, but we still need to have your tick against it to say, yep, that's good, let's go. And of course, your web admin needs to drop our little snippet of code in place, which only takes a minute, but sometimes that can be something.
Sometimes that can seem like the biggest thing, tech projects in the world, just to get them to do that.
Yeah. We'll work with them directly if you're using a provider for that kind of thing, and give them the necessary encouragement, shall we say, to get it done.
Excellent. That's a fantastic. That's really good. And of course, as you highlight there in the beginning, look, you just have to be a Kerfuffle member, and as we all know, it's absolutely free to be a Kerfuffle member. So it's a bit of a no-brainer to get on board.
Yeah. Do you want to go on to the extra special one? I'll leave you.
I love it. Is this where? Hang on. Do I need to go into my sort of?
Oh yeah, very much so.
Our salesman mode.
Very much so. Yeah. You ready? I think it's like give you a countdown. 3, 2, 1, go.
So we've got the Yomdel coronavirus support, and here we are. Yes, fantastic. So yeah, do you want to just detail that? That looks.
It's essentially, when the lockdown hit, as with so many businesses, there was a real panic out there in the market, and we wanted to do our bit to help as much as possibly could. It was absolutely clear that businesses that had been doing pretty well had suddenly saw the prospect of having any revenue coming in for the foreseeable future taken away from them. So when the lockdown hit, we went out unilaterally to all of our clients, and we swiped 25% off all of our rates to everyone until the end of June.
That's really good.
We also abolished all of our setup costs. So for those business owners out there, what we actually did was give away 25% of our revenue. Just put it in that context. It's 25% price cut, but actually it's 25% of all of our revenue. It's a huge hit to Yomdel. But we wanted to invest in helping our partners, our clients, weather the storm, because we're all in it together, and it's in everyone's interest that we all come through it together. Then we can build, hopefully a brighter future going forward. So our existing clients are still enjoying 25% off all of their bills until the end of June. And we have been offering this to new clients as well, together with the new clients also got a completely free setup and no long-term contract periods either. So just kind of a come in, doesn't cost you anything, get started, and you get a 25% discount till the end of June. We've had to stop the offer now for new clients, especially as things have started to open up and there is the ability to make a bit of money. So we're honouring it for existing clients, but we're stopping it for new estate agency clients coming in. However, because Mr. Whale is so persuasive, I'll pass that to you, mate.
No, I think you've been really, really good, haven't you? I mean, I happen to know probably you wouldn't have said it, but that deal that you were doing there was, it wasn't making your margin, quite the opposite, and that's why it had to stop. It was really, as you said, it was as we all do in these times, get cash collection, get things in on board. But I absolutely loved the fact that you were giving back to the industry at a time when it really, really needed it. So I just said, look, it would be absolutely lovely if we could extend that just a little bit longer for obviously our own special members. And you've been kind enough to kind of give that back, haven't you?
Absolutely. So yeah, so now the free setup and the 25% off is only available for estate agents. It's only available to Kerfuffle members coming through Kerfuffle. While the 25% off does end at the beginning of June, and then we go to the standard Kerfuffle discount after that, it's worth just reiterating that to get you live only takes a couple of days, you know, or a week if you're slow, or 2 weeks if you're really, really slow. So there's still plenty of time to get real benefit from these bargain basement prices, having spent a lot of time on this on this discussion saying it's not about the price, but as it's not. This is about helping people, helping you guys get going again as we try to work out how we can all run our businesses going forward.
Great. Well, that's fantastic. So just so we understand, can they sign up to this up until the 30th, or they'd be pretty
They can, but the 25% you only get the real benefit when you're live. You get the free setup, of course, to the 30th of June. So
sign up as soon as you possibly can, basically.
Yeah, I showed some stats on live chat behavior on what day was it? Monday. So before when was the announcements on Sunday? So on Monday, after Boris Johnson's pre-recorded thing on Sunday evening, Monday was one of the busiest days for live chat that we have ever seen at Yomdel.
Right. Yeah.
The volumes just went through the roof.
This is going to be unprecedented demand over the next few.
Yeah. And today again, as the news about estate agencies supposedly kind of opening up, albeit with all the caveats and all the rest of it that we need to mention, that's been filtering through to Joe Public, and Joe Public is getting on the chat lines, and they are chomping at the bit. And this reflects what we've seen in the sentiment tracker as well that we started this conversation off with. And people are using this live chat right now. And for a lot of businesses who have been caught on the hop to a degree, a lot of agents have been caught on the hop because your staff are all furloughed, you've still got the same problem about answering your phones and answering your emails. This is a really, really quick way to be open all hours and to be ready for these people. And it's about building your pipeline right now, managing expectations and nurturing relationships.
It gives you complete scalability, though, doesn't it, to handle those leads, which traditionally, as we found, many agents do struggle with. And the last thing you sound on it, you rightly picked me up at the beginning about, you wouldn't want to be missing then in a normal marketplace, but especially now when they will tend to be motivated vendors and buyers, that would be crazy to miss out on, wouldn't it?
Well, there's no point me saying because I know what I think.
Okay, well, look, thank you so much first of all, for spending so much time elaborating that update. That's really, really useful. I think we need to catch up with you regularly to see how that's going, and obviously reach out to us and let us know if there's anything particularly interesting happening there, because I suspect you've got a litmus test there for when the market's turning before anyone else does.
Our fingers on the pulse. You see all the other data that comes through, mortgage approvals and new homes and transaction volumes and all that kind of stuff. There's always a massive time lag with that. We've got our finger on the pulse. We know what the public are saying now. We know what questions they're asking, and we know that over a wide swathe of the market these days. So, beyond all of this stuff that we've been talking about today, I will also say as a genuine offer that those people that know me hopefully would agree that I am always happy, in the same way that you are, Simon, but I'm always happy to share the experience or the knowledge or the stuff that I'm hearing about. I'm very happy to discuss these things one-on-one or with groups or whenever. But there's a really interesting period in time right now. Some of it for the wrong reasons, some of it for the right reasons. But this whole situation, this whole crisis, has given a right old kick up the rear of what was already happening, and accelerated change in a marketplace that has been relatively resistant to it. When we look at how agents have been quite slow to evolve their offering, if you like. For too long, it's been the argument over online and traditional and high street, and forgetting that actually it's the customer in the middle, and it's how they are doing things, and they don't necessarily distinguish between these things. It's about, if you want to present your true value proposition, you need to be able to do that in front of as many of your potential customers as you possibly can, in the places where they are, because they're not going to come to you. You have to go and seek them
I
out.
mean, you know Josh Fegan as well as anyone, and he always says, "Go where your clients are."
Yeah,
You know,
exactly right.
time for Quentin, and the fact is that them like me, they love chat. So why would you not do it, Andy? That is absolutely fantastic. I'm going to jump off now and get straight on the phone and start telling people to take advantage of this before they miss out, because I'm absolutely certain whilst they're all running around outside today getting ready for the market again, they don't want to miss out on an offer like this.
No, super. No, and I appreciate the time, Simon, as well. And we believe in what Kerfuffle is trying to do, or is doing. There's a real need for businesses that we said it earlier. Estate agents, if they're any good, are really good at being estate agents. And yes, you do have to retool and reskill, how you do things to a degree. But there's lots of people out there who can help make your businesses more efficient. And I'd like to think that Kerfuffle is part of that, and that Yomdel will play a small part.
Well, I love the fact you're getting into it. Transparency is only ever good for the consumer. So I applaud you for that. And as I said, we're going to be pushing this from now till Kingdom Come. So thank you very much. And we'll catch up with you soon.
I'll stop the share there. Yeah, thanks very much, Simon. All the very best.
Cheers. Bye.